my voice and that we do it. So we're doing a special show today. We're real big on asking you to come. Right. And so I'm super excited about what's happening today. And on today's episode, we're actually.
All right. So I am live on YouTube right now. I pressed the button without realizing that we were going to go live. I don't know what I was thinking, but hello to my YouTube family. You guys give me a sound check. Let me know that you could hear me. Yeah. Let me know that you could hear me. Let me know that you could see me. Okay. Is this thing working? Audio. All right. So we will just assume that it is. Okay. We're just gonna hope for the best that it is. All right. So I am going to be live on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok all at the same time. Let's go. Today's topic is self care is not selfish. All right. All right, guys. Okay. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another True Growth TV episode. And tonight we are talking self care, but we're going to address self care not being selfish. All right. So, hello, Instagram. Hello, TikTok. Hello, YouTube. For those of you who are joining me for the very first time, I am Latina Mata, mindset coach, founder of True Growth Caribbean, a facilitator of healing with revelation breathwork. And this is my weekly discussion slash conversations that I have where I talk about things that, well, people don't usually talk about. Well, at least in the space of the internet that I'm on, when people talk about it, it's very watered down. And I feel as though there's a lot of room, especially in the Caribbean, to have more conversations. All right. So, guys, I'm just going to give everybody a few seconds, a few minutes, a minute to hop in. Those of you who are on Instagram, hello Nikki, hello Racine, hello Stay Grounded. So nice to have you guys. Those of you on TikTok, say hello. I'm seeing some of you guys joining. And those of you on YouTube, say hello. All right. I want to start off very quickly by saying, guys, this is an open forum. You are free to ask me questions. So at the start of this conversation, as you see the topic that says self care is not selfish, you're free to have your questions prepared. But I also don't want to keep you here all night because I could go on and on and on until the cows come home. Hello, TikTok. Hello, Javan. Hello, Kit. Uniqueness. Um, yeah. So I'm gonna tell you all a story. All right. Let me start with the story. So I was having a conversation with somebody, and I was like, "Hey, you know what should I talk about today?" And they were like, "When self care turns into selfishness." And I was like, "This." I was like, what? Self care turns into selfishness. And they were like, yeah, when self care turns into selfish. I said, well, please explain. Please help me understand what you mean by when self care turns into selfishness. And so they drew an example where they did something for somebody to meet the person's self care so that to ensure that the person could hear Oh wait, before I go, I did not even do a sound check. Guys, let me know that you could hear me, please. I'm so sorry that I had to pause, but let me know that you could hear me before I start going on and on, especially Instagram, because I have this thing plugged in. All right. So I just need to know that you guys could hear me and see me clearly. All right. So I know I'm getting a yes for TikTok. Am I getting a yes for Instagram? Let me know before I just go on a whole roller coaster. Hello, I'm too much. Oh, you're not too much. I'm too much. Thank you, Javan. I'm not sure what is going on in TikTok, not TikTok, Instagram. Instagram, hello, are you guys hearing me? I'm not sure. And I want them to hear me. Let me try. Instagram, are you hearing me? All right. Were you hearing me before Stitch Empire? Let me know that you were. Can you hear me now? Stitch Empire, can you hear me? Crystal, can you hear? Yes? All right, good. All right. So let me get to the story. So I was speaking to the guy and I was like, like what to talk about. And he said, let's talk about when self-care turns into selfishness. So I'm like, where self-care turn into selfishness? Like, how is this a thing, right? And he proceeds to tell me a story where he said that he did something for his mom, and when it was time to, so he did something for her to ensure that she was taken care of or whatever in terms of whatever she needed. And when time came some time later for it to be reciprocated on his end, it wasn't. There was a lot of resistance, there was a lot of attitude, and she basically was like, she wasn't about reciprocating the love, basically. And I took that in and I was like, okay. But I also know that there are other people in his life who he speaks about in the same capacity. He would give of himself, he would ensure that they are well taken care of, etc. And he will go above and beyond for this person. So you guys let me know if this resonates, if you're one of those people. And then when you are in the shitty end, when you are in a deep end, when you want to pull out, when you want help, when you want something, those same people that you're going to, they appear very selfish. They appear as though, they can't get anything from them. They're not, they're just not reciprocating. Now, I want you to keep in mind, right, that what I am speaking about here is relatively healthy relationships. I am not speaking about if you're in an abusive relationship with a family member, with a friend, with a partner. I'm not speaking about if you're in an abusive relationship. I'm not speaking about if you are in something that you know is 150% completely toxic to your soul, right? And you know at a soul level that you're not supposed to be there. I'm speaking about relationships and situations with friends, family, co-workers, whatever, where it's relatively healthy, but you notice these things happen, right? And here's what the conclusion was. Selfishness is very, very different from self-care, right? Self-care is not when somebody prioritizes their self-care, when you prioritize your self-care, it does not make you a selfish person. The people who feel as though self-care is selfishness is because you would have been taught or you would have learned as a child that to put your needs in front of anybody else's need is not okay. I repeat that. Most of the people who believe that to prioritize their self-care, to ensure that they are good for themselves, to ensure that they make sure that they are well taken care of first, who believe that to do that makes them bad people or makes them selfish, it's because you were taught as a child, you learned as a child that to put your needs, emotional, physical, mental needs in front of your parents or your caregivers or whatever was a no-no. And from childhood, you learned that you need to make sure mommy was good, daddy was good, grandma was good, everybody else needs to be good in order for you to survive. So, as you get older, right? As you get older, you become a people pleaser. Do I have any people pleasers here? Do I have any yes people in here? Do I have anybody in here who struggles with saying no? Do I have anybody in here who finds it very difficult to, stand your ground with your boundaries? If I do, raise your hand. And this is a safe space. There's no shame here. We all go through our different struggles, right? I am here to tell you without an apology that self care is not selfish. And if you believe, and now to back up the person who shared the story about, self care becoming selfishness, and they were looking at through the eyes of the people who they were expecting a reciprocation from, is because when you people please out of, like over the top, basically, right? When you people please, what it breeds is resentment, right? What it breeds is an expectation and attachment for when it is you do whatever it is you do, that you will get something in return. Now, of course, what I'm saying here might sound absurd, might sound rude, might sound like, Latina, that is not true, but it is true. Because at some deeper root part of you, there is a belief that once you put these people in front of me first, once I make sure he is good or she is good or they are good consistently, maybe you would be seen, maybe you would be heard, maybe you'd be validated, maybe you'd be loved, maybe you'd be appreciated, right? So people who people please, I'm seeing your hand, Karen. People who people please, they do it to the point, and it's from only out of survival, guys. They do it from a space of simply just trying to find ways to get their needs that they did not get as a child met, right? And it becomes this toxic cycle of just putting others in front, putting others in front, putting others in front, till it builds resentment, till it builds bitterness, till it creates this space of emotional burnout, right? Till it builds this belief that self care is selfish because the people who you are giving to and doing for do not reciprocate, right? I'm seeing Racine says a lot of religions teach charity through self sacrifice. Now, Racine, when we start to talk religion, that's going on a whole different story, and I hear that, and there's a thin line, right? There is a thin line. And a lot of people, if just to stray a little, when we pray and when we do things and we go to church and we pray to God and we sacrifice and we fast, we usually also place an attachment and expectation for something supposed to happen, right? This is usually what they teach in church. When you do this, when you pray, when you do that, when you do the other, when you give, when you etc., you are to expect and you are to know that things are going to come back. And so when things are taking longer than there is, when life is happening, when crises are happening, you'd find that in those spaces you feel very discontent, you feel very demotivated, you feel as though God is not here, and you feel as though all this church thing is just nonsense because there has been an initial attachment and expectation to what it is you were doing, right? And but as I said, I don't want to go down into that space. We would stick right here in terms of, just regular relationships, right? So the point that I'm making is, when we are in this space, this new space of consciousness, and we acknowledge that we are people pleasing, I want you to know that our people pleasing or your people pleasing behavior, it's purely out of survival. And that's okay. That is okay. But when you acknowledge that this survival work that you've been doing no longer resonates and you're ready to thrive, there are some things that you have to do to bring yourself to a space to acknowledge that your self care is not selfishness. You choosing to start to put yourself first instead of other people, it does not make you a bad person, right? It sincerely does not make you a bad person. What it does is begin to change the type of relationships that you have with people around you. What it does is create new ways of being for yourself. What it does is create a ripple effect in terms of how your life is going to be looking or seeming in the future because you have started to change how you function and relate with other people. And the starting point for that is boundaries. People who people please usually struggle with boundaries, aka saying no. No is a full sentence. Nothing is wrong with saying no. People who people please, right? Usually have this belief somewhere deep rooted that, if I do this, if I get this, if I show them, if I whatever, this is going to be an outcome. So there's this attachment and this expectation there that there's a specific type of outcome to come. And then those who people please may also just simply do not like to deal with confrontation. Confrontation is too much. Confrontation is too much to them to deal with emotionally. They can't deal with the waves and the roller coasters that come from having to deal with people who just can't take no's, right? Second of all, or third of all, when we decide to set boundaries, the first set of people who are going to have a problem with our boundaries are the people who don't have boundaries themselves, right? The people who we set boundaries for are usually, if they don't have boundaries themselves, are usually first set of people, or the people, I should say, to have an issue when boundaries are set. So, in order for us to start to move from acknowledging or to start to change our stories that people pleasing, that self care is not selfishness, we have to actually start with our boundaries, deciding that, hey, no is no, this is what I stand for, this is what I am doing, this is what I am not doing. I also want you to know that when you start setting boundaries, you can't just come with a whole bull, like just start to pelt up walls all over the place because there's going to be backlash, right? There's going to be backlash because people don't know this version of you. People don't know this strong, assertive, bold person to say no, they're not doing something. Especially if you've been somebody to just say yes and to give and to do and to just do all the things for a long period of time and then suddenly decide to give somebody a no, they usually malfunction, right? Because they're like, what's wrong with you? He have attitude, she have attitude, something going on with him. Not recognizing that it is you taking total radical responsibility for the quality of your life and deciding that you're going to change the way that you function, right? The decision to take care of yourself, spend money on you, get your sleep, tell people you are not able to come out, you are not able to go to the event that they invite you to. Tell people no who want to borrow money from you. No, I can't do that right now. I need a drop here, there, and everywhere. No, I can't do that today. Whatever it is you decide to do, it is not out of trying to harm them. It is not out of being a bad person. It is not out of any of that, but simply by you taking a stock of your life, doing an audit of your life, and recognizing where you're spending your energy and recognizing that the things that you are doing have become very dysfunctional for your life and you no longer want to do it. And so, in your decision in your choice to say no and to start setting boundaries around specific things is actually going to make you a lot happier. Does this make sense? Let me know if this makes sense. Hello, Instagram. Hello, TikTok. Hi, YouTube. Let me know if this resonates and if you guys have any questions so far. Hello, Chris Cuts, Ben C, Sid Henry, who's here with me on Instagram. I'm too much. You're asking, what is this? This is True Growth TV, where we have conversations every Wednesday at 8 p.m. around a list of topics related to self discovery, inner work, mindset, entrepreneurship. The city manager, you missed my videos. Yes, man, I know it's been a journey, it's been a struggle lately. Okay, so I'm seeing that it makes fancy sense, right? Good. So, people pleasers, I want you to know it's okay. It's okay. What people pleasing is as a result of what you learned that you needed to do in order to stay safe. If you recognize that you're in this new space of consciousness where you're like, I no longer want to people please, like, I want to set my boundaries, I want to say no, you're in a really, really beautiful place. I want you to acknowledge that in terms of your boundaries, you can't just go bulldozing down boundaries and setting up things all over the place because there's going to be a lot of backlash. Choose one area, one thing specific that you would like to set a boundary for and honor it. Now, the trick here is when you set that boundary, you need to Be prepared to deal with the backlash. You need to be prepared to deal with the discomfort that would come from somebody saying, what wrong with her boy and what wrong with him? You need to be able to stay grounded in or stay grounded in your parameters that you set for whatever it is that they are asking of you or what you are choosing to do. Boundaries could look like all sorts of things. A specific time to take phone calls, a specific time to have certain types of conversations, taking drops, giving drops, lending money, what time you go to your bed, what type of things for people to talk to you about, what type of things for people to share with you. It does not matter whatever area of your life. Once you do this audit, you decide, hey, this person or these people are encroaching on my space and it's becoming so much too much, very unbearable. You get to choose that one thing, and then you get to keep your promise, your boundary around that when you are sharing it with them. But be mindful of the backlash that will happen and decide that you are going to stay grounded and secure despite whatever their response would be. All right? Cool. Another thing in terms of this self care is not selfishness, is that how, as a woman especially, how can you and I give to our partners, to our children, to our jobs, to our business? How could we give of ourselves if we are empty? How? Somebody make it make sense for me. We are not machines. We are not energizer bunnies. We cannot give of the best of ourselves to the people that we love and care for if we are empty. When I speak about self care, I do not speak about self care just as getting your nails done and just as getting your hair done. That to me is like the barest, most basic-ist, minimum-ist thing that anybody could do in terms of their self. That is secondary. That is secondary. When I talk about self care to me is a combination of your mental, emotional, spiritual, physical well being that you take into consideration every single day so that you could have a holistic type of self care that radically impacts your self love, or your self love radically impacts your self care. As a matter of fact, this will, of course, take us into another conversation. If we are struggling with self care, then there's a huge likely chance that we are struggling with self love. If you are struggling with self care, there is this huge likely chance that you are definitely struggling with self love. So if you notice that it's difficult for you to take care of you, it is difficult for you to put yourself first in certain circumstances. If it is you realize that you keep giving and people pleasing and doing and going as though you're energizer bunny and not taking time to fill yourself up, there is a huge chance that you are lapsing on the self-love part of things. Right? You and I, especially women, and there are men too, of course, who do it. And I noticed the conversation that I started this with is that a man, he shared with me, he gives, and his self care is on the lower parts of life. If we continue to give of ourselves without prioritizing our self care, we would turn into resentful, bitter people because we pour. You can't pour from that empty cup. So guess what happens? Your children gets a crabby, cranky mommy. Your children, your wife will get a half-assed, tired husband. Your friends would get a lot of no's, a lot of setups, a lot of nine coming or yes are coming and don't make it. Your job would not get the best of you. Your business, your passion, your whatever it is you're doing will not get the best of you if you feel burnt out. You are emotionally burnt out, mentally burnt out, physically burnt out, spiritually burnt out. How can we pour and give to anybody that we love if we are not taking care of ourselves? So, to take care of yourself is not selfish. As a matter of fact, the best thing that you could do for the people that you love is to prioritize you. Now, of course, in the Caribbean, perhaps, right, we have this concept where you had to put everybody, before you. You had to make sure everybody good, blah, blah, blah. We see our grandmothers do it. We see our grandfathers do it. We see our great grandparents. And of course, all that is well and great and beautiful, but we also see how many of them basically live their lives for their husband, or how many of them live their lives for their wives, or how many of them live their lives for their children. And the outcome is them at an older age just very resentful and angry and upset because they did not live their life for them. And so in their older age, they are frustrated, they are saddened, they are heartbroken, they feel unfulfilled because they basically sacrificed their entire life for the sake of somebody else. And as Racine was mentioning in terms of religion, etc., of course, those things were praised, and that was then. Now in this era here, with all these Gen Zs, Gen X, and everybody that exists, and this new level of consciousness that we all have as a people, or we are gaining as a people, there must be recognition that your self-care is not selfish. Because in order for you to show up for this job that you love, or you say you love, you had to take care of you. In order for you to show up for your partner, you had to take care of you. In order for you to take care of your children, you have to take care of you. Do you know why we have all this shit and all this crime and all these parents beating children, and children beating child? Do you know why we have all of this going on right now? Because there's very little emotional regulation. There's very little emotional and nervous system regulation taking place. And it is not taking place because a lot of people don't know how to care for themselves, and to care for themselves in a very radical, self loving type of way, which means that they are taking a holistic approach, mental, emotional, spiritual, physical approach to how they are and who they are. We cannot just focus on the spiritual and forget the rest of our beings, which is what usually religion does, right? Has us just focus strictly on the religious part, and we bypass the physical, the mental, the emotional. So to focus on spirituality alone is to do spiritual bypassing. To focus simply on your nervous system and regulating your nervous system is to be doing bypassing with that. To just do cognitive things and just focus on your mindset without taking care of your body, without taking care of your soul, is to do mental bypassing, is to do cognitive bypassing. I am not saying to bypass on any level. I am saying to prioritize your self care in terms of all those layers, because those are all parts that make us whole. And when we learn to prioritize this, when we learn to see this as important, when we learn, and here, guys, it doesn't have to be this Instagram looking type of thing, or this TikTok looking type of thing where people have all these reels that look like, they who and kumbaya and all this, and the candle and the yoga for hour. It doesn't have to be all of that every day. 5 minutes, 2 minutes, 1 minute. Do one thing that is great for yourself, that for your physical body. Do one thing that is great for your soul. Do one thing that is great for your mental capacity. Just do one thing every single day to support yourself, to fill yourself up, to charge yourself up, so that you could be the best person for those around you, is what is going to support you. And you would realize in that space that that is the biggest act of self-love, and that is the biggest act of love that you could give to your children, to your partner, to your co-workers, when it is you make sure that you are good for yourself first. You see, in this day and age, people also feel as though other people are supposed to fix them. Other people are supposed to validate them. Other people are responsible for making them happy. Other people stressing them out. So it's his fault and it's her fault and it's their fault. My boy, my girl, it is nobody's fault. When we become adults, it is nobody else's fault for the shit that we end up in. As shitty as that sounds, it is nobody else's fault when we find ourselves in situations, in relationships that we know are dysfunctional, and we continue to go about it over and over and over and over and over and over again, because at the end of the day, life happens. And I'm saying here, life happens, and we make these choices, and we end up in these patterns of behavior. And of course, trauma work needs to be done, self-discovery needs to be done, self-awareness work needs to be done. All the work needs to be done. But if you're in a relationship, or you're a mommy, or you're a parent, or you're a whatever, and you notice that you are reaching to a point of emotional burnout, it is nobody else's fault but ours. And it is our duty to take radical responsibility for our self care. It is our responsibility to do so, because nobody could care for me, and nobody could care for you the way that you need to be cared for, and the way that I need to be cared for. As adults, our sole role and goal right now is to reparent ourselves, aka give ourselves what it is we need. Self-care does not make you selfish. In fact, it is one of the best acts that you could do for the people that you love. This goes very, 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 like way past 100 times deeper than getting your hair and your nails done. I am speaking about that thing for your physical well-being. I'm talking about that thing for your mental well-being. I'm talking about doing that thing for your emotional well-being. I'm talking about doing that thing for your spiritual well-being. Those are the things that I am speaking about as it pertains to your self-care. And we cannot do one without doing the other, because we do not want to be bypassing anything. We are made up of all of those things, and it is all necessary. So I'm seeing somebody saying, what is one of the first steps of self-care, or what must I do first on this journey of self-care? Well, the first step is to acknowledge where you are lacking, what it is you need. There is this need for self-awareness. So Karen, do an audit on your life. Where in your life, when you look at your finances, when you look at your spirituality, when you look at your relationships, when you look at your physical well-being, when you look at these different facets of your life, where is it struggling? And if you notice specific areas are struggling, you check in, you ask yourself, okay, what do I need right now? And when you notice what it is you need, the first step in terms of your self care is to decide on how and what you are going to give yourself. How are you going to give yourself what it is you need? Start small, start gentle, start with something that you could commit to. But if you know that, for example, you are having a hard time in terms of health and wellness, and that in itself is a big struggle for you, I don't expect you to decide, hey, I'm going to go to the gym 5 days for the week or 7 days for the week, and I'm only going to go and eat greens. No, it can be something as simple, as subtle as, I'm going to drink more water today. Simple. Simple, subtle, gentle, because you don't want this to be a shock to your system where you cannot maintain. This is something that you want to be able to integrate at identity level over a period of time. Self care is absolutely important. And I am not speaking about the Instagram self care where things look pretty and people just getting their nails done and their hair done. That is not what I am speaking about. I'm seeing somebody else saying where to start with your self care, to accept all of your wrong and never go back. Self care is your decision to choose you, but that stems from from a decision to radically self love. Potato, chicken, or egg, however it goes, I'm just here to let you guys know self care is not selfish. And for those of us who people please, for those of us who have boundary problems or have issues setting boundaries, I want you to know that you're not alone. Your reason for doing that, more than likely, is because that's what you were taught as a child. That is what you learned in order to survive. But now, if you're here, listen to this, taking this in, it means that you are at a new level of awareness there. You are at a level of consciousness where you acknowledge that that type of dysfunction is not serving you anymore. And I'm letting you know that there is space, there is grace, there is room for you to change, for you to grow, for you to do the trauma work, the healing work, whatever work needs to be done in order you to change the trajectory of your future and to change the type of relationships that you have. Right? Good night for those of you who are now hopping on. As I said, guys, feel free to ask me any questions. It is a beautiful Wednesday night. It's Wednesday, right? Yes, it's Wednesday. Oh, spoke so much, my throat hurts. So just a quick recap for those of you who are now hopping on. Self-care is not selfish. For those people who have a belief that that is the case, nothing is wrong with you. It's just something that we would have been taught, something that you would have learned just purely out of survival. And it's okay. It's okay, but there's room and there's space for change if it's something that you're ready for. Next up, self-care starts with you acknowledging that hey, if you want to be of your best self for those that you love, you got to take care of yourself. Self-care is not getting your nails and your hair done. It's way so much deeper than that. And you need to prioritize that so that you could give of you to those that like they matter. If you love them so much, then take care of yourself. How does that sound? Guys, let me know how that sounds. If you love these people that we keep putting ourselves last for, if you love them so much, wouldn't you want to give them the best you? Wouldn't you want to make sure you get a good night's rest so that tomorrow you could deal with your children? Wouldn't you want that you are dealing with your traumas and dealing with your emotional situations and dealing with the things that you have to deal with so that in your relationship with your partner, you could love him or you could love her with so much more of you? Wouldn't you want to feel safe and to feel connected and to feel secure and to feel assertive and to feel confident and to feel good about yourself and to feel grounded and settled? So that when you go to work, when you have to deal with your children, when you have to deal with your job, when you have to deal with your business, when you have to deal with these shit shows that happen in life, that you're able to do that with more grace. And in order for us to do that, guys, we need to take care of us first. At the moment we became adults, it was our sole responsibility to begin reparenting ourselves. Nobody else is responsible to meet your needs. Nobody. Nobody. Nobody here is responsible to meet our needs. We have to learn how to meet our own needs. We need to learn how to meet our own needs. And life is such a paradox that we get to learn to meet our own needs by having a safe space to co-regulate. But we have to do this in two parts. We have to learn to co-regulate in safety, and then we also need to learn to self-regulate. And at this point in time, based on this topic, we're talking about self-care, and I'm speaking directly in terms of what we need to do for ourselves. All right. So I'm seeing here on TikTok, first time seeing you live. I'm so glad to have you here. I'm seeing somebody said it's having a high tolerance. So what people do or do to you, is that a toxic behavior? High tolerance is a very relative word, Karen. But do you mean as in when it happens, you just like, you know what, whatever, that's just how he is or that's just how she is? You get to check in with that, Karen. Does that leave some feeling of or some baseline of a question mark around your worthiness? This is just a suggestion, it's just a question, it's just a statement, that's something that you could ponder on. In my opinion, when we have people who do toxic things to us and we are in situations that we know the things that people are doing are not okay, and we just let it like, okay, cool, you know what? That small thing, that speaks to our level of self-worth. Do we believe that we are worth it, worth enough to have to deal with this shit or not have to deal with it? And when it comes to your self-care, radical self-love, chicken, chicken before the egg before the chicken, whatever. When it comes to that, you need to have a sit with self-worth, that conversation around self-worth. And that is another thing, and I'm so glad that you mentioned that, Karen. A lot of us struggle with self-care because there is a lack of feeling of self-worth. There's a lack of feeling that we are worthy and we deserve to be treated right, to be taken care of, to prioritize our needs, to ensure that we are good. And that lack of self-worth is also some shit that would have happened in our childhood or in some past relationship or whatever the case is, that basically taught us that, hey, we're not worth that much. And I also want to say that if that resonates with anybody here, I want you to know that it is okay. It is okay. Yes, there is room, there is space, you are not doomed. We are not doomed or destined for that to be who we are. We are not doomed, we are not destined, that is what it is. And so this needs to continue. We get to change that. And of course, it requires support, it requires safety, it requires consistency, it requires taking that courageous, inspired action daily. It requires the shadow work, it requires the crying, it requires the coaching, the therapy, the breath work, the nervous system work, the releasing, the forgiving. It requires all of that shit. So it's not going to happen overnight. But most of us, when we have issues in terms of self care, self love, consistency, and a whole bunch of other things, it's usually wrapped up in our self worth. Do you believe you are worth it? It's a powerful question. When you think about the things in your life that are giving you a very hard time right now, and you know it requires certain changes in behavior, do you think you're worth it? Do you? And oftentimes we would say, yes, of course. Okay, dig a little deeper. Then if we're with it, why isn't it being done? Why isn't your self-care prioritized? That's just some food for thought, guys. Rhetorical question. You can sit with that. All right. So you guys, that was me there. No. I came on here. I have you all here for a whole 45 minutes. I appreciate you guys so much for those of you who've been on with me. Um, asking questions, staying locked in. I appreciate you so much. Of course, you could feel free to share this with somebody. Do you guys have any questions for me? Those on TikTok, thank you so much. I'm too much. It was nice. For those of you who are following, I appreciate you. You're welcome, Karen. Yeah. So, guys, that is our topic for tonight. Self care is not selfish. It is not. It is absolutely not. If you love the people that you say you love, please prioritize taking care of you because you can't pour from an empty cup. Cody, I'm so glad that you enjoyed this conversation. So glad to have you, JJ and Miss Tune, and all of those of you are on Instagram. All right. Breathwork session will be soon. One-on-one coaching sessions are available. And most definitely, guys, I would see you guys next Wednesday. All right. And for those of you saying good night, thanks for those words of encouragement and inspiration. I'm so glad to have you here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Something I needed to hear. You're welcome, Karen. All right, guys. So if you all have any suggestions, any questions, any topics that you want me to have conversations on, please let me know. If I have business owners here, entrepreneurs here, let me know what's the struggle because I struggle too. Like I get a real struggle. So let me know. This is a space to have these conversations to share. And I want you all to have questions to ask me so that I don't speak at you. I don't like speaking at you. I want to speak with you. And having questions makes this so much easier to answer. So I'm not speaking at you, I'm speaking with you, right? So yes, guys, I love you. I appreciate you so much. Thank you for your attention and breath work and coaching. I'd see you guys soon. Bye bye. All right, so let's see. I'm gonna end. How do I end all of these things at one time? Woo! Swipe left to close. Okay, I have no clue. Let me push this up here. All right, guys. So it's obvious that I'm still here. I just have no clue. Karen, you could send me in my DMs or something. God, how you come out of these things? Okay, bye Instagram. So we stay there. I think I'll stay on TikTok for a little longer. How do I end